Hey Chelsea, is this where the party's at?
Oh yeah, Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, boy, we're gonna be caffeinated,
It's gonna be
but
a
not
rain.
caffeinated. Everything's fine.
Oh my God, I hope you crack one of those open.
No, it was a different thing fell off my desk. We're good. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for joining me at the health party. We're not gonna be here long. We
Oh,
quit.
okay. That's fine. We can stop in real quick.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you how I know the people who this house belongs to them. I'm gonna tell you how I know them. And spoiler alert, it is from Jesus Camp. It's called EFY. Did you ever go to EFY?
No, I knew plenty of people who did, but that was, no offense, that was for like rich Mormons, and I wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My family was not, we were like middle class, like maybe a little upper middle class.
Well, I was gonna say by rich, I just mean someone who is upper middle class. We were like lower middle class.
Yeah.
So we were at least like not getting government assistance anymore, but we definitely didn't have like expendable cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
My parents like they would save up. At least this is the way I remember it. They really thought it was like important for us to go to a program. So EFY is called Especially for Youth, and it was basically a Mormon teenage summer camp that was for a week long. And my parents thought it was important for us to go and do that, not only to meet other Mormons and like-minded people, but a lot of what that week was about was um, sitting in lectures and getting taught about Jesus and about chastity and about dating and about just any topic under the sun that they wanted teens to uh, teens to know and discuss and believe.
What's funny to me is you're telling me all this. I'm like, so it's kind of like extra church that you paid for.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like that's this kind of stuff you cover in church every week. But
Yeah, but there were at least dances, and there were
oh, okay.
some like
And those didn't happen every week at church.
yeah, they
We
definitely
weren't a dancing church.
we weren't the Shakers,
Mm-mm.
not even close. But one year, I think it was when I was like 15, maybe 16. We went to BYU Provo. I mean, I went to like EFY, the church camp like in Colorado. I went to it in Idaho. I also went to it because they had it at basically any sort of college campus where there was a presence, like a big Mormon presence. But BYU, because it's in Utah, is like the Mecca, the holy ground. So and you weren't able to always get in based on just the registration
Yeah.
like the camps and stuff. So I also remember because this is also when like not dial up, it wasn't dial up. I guess it was like the first version of high speed internet was like out. And so we really had to like one, do a lot of pre-planning of what week actually worked to go to these camps, and then two, coordinate it with like our friends and like pick who we wanted to register with so we could be bunkmates or roommates together, and then also hope that we could actually get in. But we won the lottery that year and we were able to go to BYU Provo. And I remember the first time that I had met these two guys was we were walking from like one class to another, and they were just kind of out like on the quad in the big kind of area. And they looked, this is like very typical Chelsea. They looked like ska kids. They had Converse, they had like the sweeping hair, they wore Levi's, they had like the button-up shirts. I
That went all the way up, buttoned up.
Yeah, all the way
Okay.
up, buttoned up, top button. It was
And were there Converse like the black checkered ones?
they weren't black checkered.
Okay.
They were the regular black with like the white. So
Hmm.
it's like the classic style. I think one of them wore checkered Vans though.
Okay.
One's was
I
more
always
of
feel
a
like
Vans
checkered it appears somewhere when you're a ska kid.
yes, it is very
Checkered shoes show
true.
up somewhere, or
Yeah,
like a checkered tie. You need check somewhere.
yes, it is very
Yeah.
true. But I
Yeah.
remember looking at them and being like, I need to talk to them. Because one, you're like horny little teenagers at Jesus camp where you really can't like do anything sexual, but you're like being inundated
But
with.
you are fully pubescent, being flooded with sex hormones at all times. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So I was like,
Mhm.
I have to talk to these guys. So
Yeah.
I just went up and started talking to them because that's just what I did. Is like if I wanted to talk to people, I would go talk to them. Pretty extroverted anyway. Found out that they too lived in Denver. They lived about 30 minutes away from where we were. And I was like, shut up. Like, we are from the same state. Stars aligned, we met here. I had gone.
Clearly, I was going to say, how do you know that it wasn't like divine intervention,
I
right?
know. I think it was. I
Mhm.
think 16-year-old Chelsea, 15-year-old Chelsea, whatever her age was, definitely thought it was divine intervention. But yeah, so we swapped information. That was back before I had like a cell phone, so it was like landlines. And we kept in touch. I was there with a few friends. This is also very Chelsea. It's like if I had a crush on someone, especially because of like the rejection sensitivity dysphoria that I did not have a name for, but like in order to protect me from that, I would make the introduction or like meet someone. But I had friends who were a bit more blatant in like their flirting and in expressing interest. And so they always ended up with the guy. And I just ended up always in like the friend category. So they
I
were
can
like,
100% relate to that, just FYI.
yeah, yeah,
Which, as we talked about in the last time, and I got to tell you about some of the demons that I dated or how some of my mental models showed up in dating and how they informed those experiences. I definitely 100% relate to that of like, I don't want to be rejected, but I want to flirt because that's kind of what I'm feeling driven to do. But I also don't want to do it too overtly because of the rejection slash low self-esteem that I constantly have, or like
yeah,
that fear of rejection
yeah,
because I have low self-esteem that I constantly have. And then being like, oh, but why don't the boys like me? But it's because like people who maybe aren't having those internal struggles and are just straight up flirting, it's easier than for people to realize, oh, I think you might like me.
yes,
So yeah.
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 They're just not having they're not having to have other people or requiring people to read between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
what was flirtatious to me was like just normal conversation sometimes too.
Yeah. And like honestly, as an adult, I've come like it wasn't until much like when I was in my early 20s that I realized a love language for me is teasing people.
Okay.
And like that's something like in my family, if you liked someone, you made fun of them. And
Yeah.
if you didn't like someone, you made fun of them, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So I know it's like hard because it's like either way you're gonna get made fun of, but if you're getting made fun of in a certain way, that's love. And so then that was also probably very confusing because that's not a nuance everyone gets when they come from like families maybe with like different communication models or like healthier ways of showing love than we constantly did. So
Yeah.
I was always like, how does he not know I like him? I just roasted the hell out of him. And so it wasn't until later that I was like, oh, he might just think I'm like really mean and don't like him. Anyway, yeah,
That is hilarious. I
yeah.
think I was the opposite of that to
Yeah.
where like my mental models, especially when I would like go on dates or if the guy was like reciprocating, is like I did not know how to react because in my mind, love meant like being able, or the way that I grew up, the mental model that I had is like love is being able to perceive someone else's needs. So like if
Hmm.
I like liked this guy, but like I knew nothing about him, but like we both were like physically attracted to each other, I didn't know what to say to get him to like me. So that's where sometimes I have a few stories where I was like just literally like mute on like a date. Like I just did not say anything, but I was like really into the guy. And we
Channeled
never
your
went
inner
on a second
Ariel.
date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Like I'm
like
not, I can't say anything till you kiss me.
yeah, that's true. It's
Hmm.
true. Or at least initiate the conversation or tell me what you want me to say. Whisper what you want me to say in my ear, and then I'll say that to you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can relate that too, because it's like I would try to flirt and I was often mean. And then I'm like, how come they didn't see that that was flirting? But then if someone asked me out and as we established whether or not I liked them, I felt like it was my job to make sure that they liked me and I was pleasing to them because that was my job as a girl on a date. But then that often, as we've also talked about in the past, you and I both have been like, well, just tell me who I need to be, and that's who I am. And so, of course, when it comes to dating, then it's either me being mean to people and being like, why aren't they asking me out? Or me being completely silent, waiting for them to tell me who to be so I know how to make sure we can successfully date.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are both really stupid approaches that I've had to deal with. So anyway, you were joined, or God put you in each other's paths and you were
Yeah.
hanging out after EFY. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were gonna hang out after EFY. So my friends who were definitely more bold and more like prone to it, like flirting just felt second nature to them, and sometimes it felt like pulling teeth for me.
Hmm.
They had kept in touch with them, and had done like a pretty good job at it. It was around the time of we did not have Facebook then. This was like pre-Facebook. So really the only time that we were able to contact them was if someone had a cell phone or if we called them from the landline. So I just naturally didn't. I mean, we could like email each other, but anyway, I wasn't gonna email anyone. I also didn't have like AIM. My parents like didn't let us do like the AOL Instant Messenger. So yeah, but my friends, they had all access to all that stuff, and like it was just easier for them to keep in touch with them. Anyway, in the same friend group that I went to EFY with, this is also an important part, I was considered the good girl. Um, my older sister, she was like very rebellious and like abdicated her responsibility as like the eldest daughter. And so me being like the peacemaker and just wanting things to like go over well, but also me wanting to, there's a lot of mental models there too. But I ended up like fulfilling the eldest daughter role, and having ADHD and needing strict rules and structure. Like I took took to religion like a moth to a flame. A lot of the executive functions were met, and I knew exactly what I needed to do in order to get approval by other people and approval by God. So I was considered the good girl, and the parents of my friends knew this too. So anytime that my friends and we really were friends, let me caveat this too, because in a way it's like, man, those were not friends. They were just using you so you could like go to places like house parties or do things that maybe their parents wouldn't let them do, but because I was going to them or was able to go, then they'd be like, oh, you can go. As
Because
Chelsea.
you were like the bar of like, if she's going, then you can go. I
Yeah,
get that.
yeah,
I was like that. Or yeah, it was kind of, me and my friend group, we were all the Chelseas, where we were all very serious about being good kids. And so it was similar to that, where there were some people who, yeah, parents would be like, well, if Casey and these girls are going, then you can go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think the one thing that, and why I want to clarify that I think we really were friends and there were connections there, is because for each of us, I think there was like an underlying sense of rebelliousness, because like I did have a rebellious bone in my body, especially when it came to things that I was being taught in church that I didn't like necessarily agree with, because my parents also did a really good job at like, even though we were raised in a super high demand religion, they were really cognizant of teaching us that we had a voice and to stand up for things that we believed in, even if it went against like what other people thought were normal or typical for us. So yeah, it was kind of like another interesting mental model there of, but anyway, so we, the the three of us, the three that I'm like me and these two other girls, we didn't necessarily agree with everything that we were being taught in church, and we were like, man, this is like pretty dumb, like these rules are kind of dumb and like all this other stuff. But so I think we had a friendship based on like a general understanding of like something about this isn't working for us. We don't know how to articulate that, and we can't not practice it because that's what our expectation of the families have of us. But there is some sort of like dissatisfaction there that I think we
Mhm.
like were able to observe in each other, but we never really like talked about at length. Anyway, so they were talking to these boys, and One of them was in a ska band. I think he
Well, I was
played.
gonna say, Chelsea, if there's anything I've heard in this story so far is that your rebellious streak was you were into the edgy guys, like ska kids.
Yeah. Yes, so edgy.
Yeah.
So edgy.
I
And I
mean,
think he played the drums. Uh,
oh, bad boy
he was the
alert.
bad boy. He was the bad boy. But I liked his friend more. He was more of
Mm,
like the artist creative guy who was
mm,
just like the hype person. But the ska band was getting together at someone's house, one of their band members' house. Their parents were gone and they were going to throw a house party.
mhm.
And they invited us to go. And it was just going to be like a backyard concert type of a thing. Keep in mind, they lived in a more affluent part of Colorado than like
Which is only
me.
confirming my bias that only rich Mormons went to EXY.
100%. Now that you say that, I'm like, oh, 100%. That is just like rich Mormons running around for a week.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the backyard, it was like there were there were like cafe lights hung up, like there was a little mini like deck that was off on the corner, so it was like the perfect stage. We got there, and there were a lot of people, a lot of cars. It wasn't as crazy as the background currently is,
Yeah.
but there were a significant
So
number.
this isn't an actual photo from
This
the
is not
event.
an actual photo. No, I wish I had an
I
actual.
guess I'll keep listening then.
Yeah. I wish this was an actual photo.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I think there were drinks. I think there was alcohol there. I was really uncomfortable like around alcohol just because like that wasn't anything normal to me. Like none of my family, extended family, like people in my peer group. I mean, I had friends who weren't necessarily religious and we would go over to their house and their parents would be drinking. But even then it like made me really uncomfortable because the mental model that I had around alcohol is that it was like from the devil. And
Yeah, it's real bad.
yeah, it was just so bad. It was just so
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah.
So I was like pretty nervous. I also wasn't positive that my friends wouldn't ditch me to hang out with the boys. And so I was also really nervous around like, what if I do get ditched? Like I don't have a cell phone. I could find like I could maybe borrow someone's cell phone and call my parents or like use the house phone to call my home phone, but like we also didn't have a driver's license. That's why I think we were like 14, 15 now thinking about it, just because like I think we had our learner's permits, but not driver's license. So like my friend's parents dropped us off and they said they were going to come back at a specific time type of a thing. She had a cell phone though, because she was like definitely more affluent than me or this other friend we were with. Then anyway, so I was like really nervous the whole time and like leading up to the party, I was really nervous. I'm like, oh, this will be so fun. But in my mind, house parties were like from 10 Things I Hate About You or from what was another one that I absolutely loved? From Clueless. Like those
Mm.
were like the house parties that was just like what I thought they
And
were.
you didn't want to end up dancing on a table.
No, and hit my head on the chandelier. Like it didn't.
Well, here's what, if it's Heath Ledger coming to rescue you, okay. If it's
Yeah.
Dell or Elton or whatever his name was, no, thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger, yes.
Yeah.
So I was just like really nervous leading up to it, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. And the nervousness, I think, looking back on it, was a lot because it was just a very brand new experience, and like I did not have any experience outside of it. But all my mental models were showing that like one, house parties without parents are bad. Two, any place with alcohol is bad. And three, like if you get ditched, like you're gonna be alone, and then what are you gonna do? Try to like hitchhike home because you're like 30 minutes away from like driving from your place. So
And you
uh
didn't have a cute ex-stepbrother that you could call in case you got held up.
I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't. But I also didn't get mugged or ruin an Elia dress. So I think it's okay. Yeah,
All
so
works
all
out.
of that stuff. I was feeling really uncomfortable, kind of like trepidatious. But then once we got there, I think we were there for like 20 minutes at the most before one of the neighbors called the cops. I think it was probably like around 9 o'clock or something. And I think the neighbors just were like very preemptive of like, it, I'm not gonna listen to some kids play some shitty ska music.
Can I just, you haven't said, but can I guess what year this was?
Yes, please.
Was it 2004 or 2005?
Oh my God, I think it was.
Okay, I was gonna say there was definitely a resurgence in ska around then. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm in my head, this is all taking place 2004, 2005. And in my head, even though I was like, I am older than you, so
yeah.
I'd already graduated from high school and I was in college because I was so cool. And you guys would have been total lamos, but I can also completely 100% see these boys, like the teenage ska kids at that time. So like that's also I'm like I feel like I know exactly
I
what
think
year
it's
this was.
2004. Yeah, it was
Yeah, I was
100%
gonna say
2004.
2004 is the number that kept coming in my
Yeah,
head, but I was like, let me just check.
it is
Okay.
100% 2004 that we were
Yeah. Yeah.
experiencing this.
So then
Or
like the
2000.
photographs, I was gonna say, good job, Brain. You pulled up all the right data
Yes,
points to
yes.
reference where I was like, this is what this kid looked like. This is kind of the songs he was playing, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
like 2004, 2005. Like,
How
honestly,
many t-shirts did you have on?
I had one
Like, did you
t-shirt.
have an undershirt plus another shirt?
I mean, I did not. I wasn't,
Okay.
well, actually, I did do a lot of the undershirts, like the shade shirts and like the lace and
Uh-huh.
like the t-shirts,
Yeah.
all
Hmm.
of that stuff. But I think this time I just had one shirt and a pair of Levi's, and I wore PF Flyers. I did not wear Converse.
Okay.
Well, I
But
did,
like another cool, like throwback high top, just
yeah.
an alternative brand.
It
Yeah.
is true. It is very true. So anyway, so 20 minutes in, the cops roll up. And luckily, like my friend's parents, she was able to get a hold of them. I remember like the cops showing up and us like trying to play it cool because the two guys were there and we were like trying to be like, oh, this is fine. Like we're not worried about cops and all this other stuff. Anyway, the parents, they were gonna go grab dinner and then come back and pick us up. So they were going to be around the neighborhood, but they pick us up. And keep in mind that one of the friends that I was with, her mom was very religious. Like her dad was also very religious. He ended up being like one of the clergymen known as a bishop for like the congregation that we were in. And so there was also some stigma around like, how dare the bishop's daughter go to like a house party and get the cops called on them. The mom was really into like image and like perception, like her perception of like how people thought of her and stuff. So anyway, we get in the car and she immediately starts going on a rant of like, I had a bad feeling about this. She was saying like it was the impressions of the Holy Ghost that like we shouldn't have gone and everything else. And I remember listening to her and being like, oh my God, she felt nervous about us going too. Like I was feeling so nervous about going. Maybe it was the Holy Ghost in me. And so I like told her, I was like, you felt, I think this cemented like the good girl, like going straight to heaven status. I was like, you felt nervous about this too. Like I felt the same way. But
I like
she,
that you're like, let me just polish this halo real quick.
ah,
I too was
um,
warned by the
I
voice of the Lord.
I know the voice of the Lord came to me in a vision. But honestly, I think some of the reason for me to say that was because I was so I couldn't face myself doing something bad because it would just muster up like all the shame in me of like, oh my God, I
Mhm.
went to a house party and I got in trouble type of a thing. So anyway, that was also
Which like objectively is such a normal teenage like rite of passage. Like
it is.
teenagers doing a house party and maybe it getting out of control. Is it awkward or uncomfortable if you're there if it doesn't align with like maybe your values or interests? Yeah. But
Yeah.
is it the end of the world in like a eternal sense? No.
No, not at all.
No.
Also,
Yeah.
I think it's good to like looking back on just my experiences. I think one of the most transformative experiences I had, and I'm so grateful my parents let me do this, is when I turned 18, I they let me go to a non-church school. I went to fashion school in Los Angeles. And that was the most transformative experience for me because I was able to make friends who weren't super religious. I mean, I've always had like friends of other denominations and everything else, wherever we lived. Like that was a big priority for my parents. Just making sure that like we lived in the world and in the
But you weren't
community
of the world.
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah. So just being able to like go to a larger city and have see how other people who weren't religious how they lived and just experiencing different things outside of like my bubble was really helpful, informative. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, that is how I basically. I'm trying to. I wrote down some notes because I could not remember this, and there were so many funny details. I was like, I have to remember all of this. But the anyway, yeah, that basically is just the end of the story of like how I was.
What happened? What came of your relationship to these young rockers after this?
Yeah, so the one of the guys, my friend ended up dating him for a little bit. I don't think it
Was it
lasted.
the guy that you liked, the artsy one, or the drummer that you didn't really care about?
No, it was the drummer that I didn't really care about.
Okay, good.
The artsy one, he we didn't really keep in touch. We would see each other every once in a while because his older sister ended up moving into the congregation that my parents lived in. So anytime that I came back from college, sometimes he would be there, like if he was visiting his sister. So we would like catch up and like say hi, but it never was like anything romantic. I honestly don't know. There was a part of me, because Chelsea, me, I also had a very, my gaydar was off.
I was honestly 100% I was gonna be like, was he gay?
I think he was.
Okay.
Because I always like just was so attracted to the more, I guess, feminine guys that were very creative and very artsy and like free thinkers and not so much of like the masculine, but also that means that you're rolling the die.
It does, and especially in the early 2000s, where again, it was a very heteronormative time. But I listen, as someone who has had been in love with my own number of gay men, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Because at the time it was like the constructs and like the way for like boys to be able to show up as men, especially if you were a heterosexual man, were a lot more limited. And
Yeah.
so it was just like the stereotype of the heterosexual man at that time was not one that I was super into either. So
Yeah.
it did lend yourself to if you found someone who was less like masculine stereotype presenting, there was the dice of either this is a really cool, self-assured person who is attracted to people of the opposite sex, or it's a really cool person who is not remotely interested in me in the least
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
only want other men. And
Yeah.
that's totally, yeah, like, so I get it. But I
Yeah.
was curious because when you said he was really artsy, I was like, oh, if your
He's
2004
taking
was
the
anything like
boxes.
mine, girlfriend, there might have been a very big reason why you guys never had anything romantic happen. Namely, you were
Yeah.
not his type.
I think that was 100%
Mhm.
it. I never confirmed if he was or if he wasn't.
Mhm.
And he would every once in a while post his art like on Facebook, but we never became like Instagram friends, or I never like followed along to see like if he really was able to live like his best dream life. But I'm assuming he was gay just because there was, yeah, there, you know how, and I say this because like my uncle's the same way, but my uncle, he's such an interesting guy. But he never will allow himself to like fully like live his best gay life just because I don't know why, but he's
Mhm.
like he's very Mormon still, never married, definitely gay. He calls it same sex
Sex
attraction.
attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, he's written a lot of books for like religious Mormon folks about being SSA, and how you can do it and how y'all are pioneers type of a thing. But
Mm.
I just wanted an uncle who was Elton John. because he is such like a big musician. Like my uncle is, he's a really prominent musician,
Yeah.
and very like musically talented and really could have anyway. So I hope that this boy, this man, now man, was able to reconcile whatever he was feeling and whatever dissonance that he had, whether that was letting.
Was with who he's attracted to, or just that maybe there were other parts of his life that didn't quite connect with the life he had in front of him.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That makes
But
sense.
yeah, I think the other guy, the drummer guy, he ended up getting married and having kids. My friends, they are both married and have kids.
But not to each other. Him and your friend didn't get married.
No, they didn't. I know.
Maybe that's what that spirit was warning you about.
Yeah, like they are not soulmates.
This relationship is just doomed. I'm just kidding. They dated, they learned
That's
from it,
true.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that was my brush, my one brush at a house party as a teenager. And ska bands. I mean, I still love ska music. Every once in a while, I'll listen to some, but
Yeah.
yeah, 2004, baby.
Well, how about you want to crack open a cold or actually not cold, a room temperature Dr. Pepper with me?
Yes, I
Diet.
would love to. I would love
Okay, cool. I'll crack this open and pass it to you.
Thank you. See ya.
Peace out.